COVID crisis has hit businesses across the world with slumping demand, broken supply chains, bankruptcies, layoffs. But for Vikram Salunkhe in the Indian city of Pune, laying off his factory workers and engineers, letting down people in his community who have worked with his family company sometimes for decades, was simply not an option. Vikram is the managing director of Accurate Gauging and Instruments, a firm producing measuring machines, and he is a member of SEALA 3 from India. Initially plunged into crisis in March 2020, Vikram found a way for his company to weather the COVID storm and, moreover, to do well by doing good. To find out about how he turned a crisis into an opportunity, I'm Adam Albion, and together with Aisha Shaukatullah, we talked to our SEALA friend, Vikram Salunkhe, as part of our Leap Forward, the global podcast series of inspiring and impactful stories from within our network.
I was particularly touched by the reason why Vikram moved the company's direction. So that was a good start of the conversation, because once you understand why he did it, what he did was secondary.
Yeah. To give a little background, our company, we are into capital goods manufacturing. We do measuring machines, and most of our clientele are automotive-based companies. When this whole COVID thing started, it kind of hit us very rapidly. The financial year ending in India is in March. 25-30% of our production actually gets delivered in the last month of the financial year to the customer. Then suddenly on 23rd of March, our government said that we had to shut down everything. So all of our materials were stuck inside the factory, and we were forced to be operating from our house with no visibility as to when the things are going to reopen, what's going to happen to our customers. We were kind of in a situation where we said, okay, let's first make sure that our team is at least engaged.
Your objective initially was to retain your employees.
Yes. In the first week, there was a tremendous uncertainty with everything that was going to happen. We have built our skills over last 15, 20, 30 years. There was absolutely no question of letting go of our people. People knew that we are a family company and with a history of 60 years. So everybody knew that whatever happens, we will be together. But the problem was earning money, because almost 30% of our production was stuck in the factory. We had no cash flows coming in. We had to assure everybody that, look, we are all in together in this situation. So the first week of April, we made the salaries as we would have made in the normal circumstances. Then the question was, what's going to happen the next month? So March was taken care in April. The whole of April was a lockdown, and we didn't know what we are going to do when the May salaries come in the first week of May. So this was the period of this 1 month that we had to put certain things in measures in place to see what we could do. We were engaged. In fact, frankly speaking, in the entire lockdown, I never had a holiday. We were working all the time. And but we also made sure that we were also keeping the same engagement with our customers. In the period of lockdown, we trained something like 3,000 operators, CMM operators, throughout the country. And we conducted these free of cost. Everybody acquired some skills that they could use after they came back to work.
Why were you training people outside your company? Were they linked with your customers?
These were our customers, irrespective of whether they used our product or not. We wanted to keep that engagement going. Same time, we also conducted a lot of internal trainings. All our engineers, all our operators, because typically, traditionally selling capital equipments meant that our teams were used to go sit with the customer face to face and talk about the product. And we never really had so much material on the computer to even make a presentation to the customer that we were told that now we can't see him for unknown times.
These were wise interim measures, but they're still not a solution to a crisis. You were facing a crisis in the company.
It was definitely a crisis. It was definitely a crisis that We have had crisis in the past, but natural calamities, you normally know that it will end in few months' time. This was a crisis that nobody knew when it's going to end, and now we are 6 months down the line, and in India we are still, facing the consequence of this, and we still don't know whether we have reached the peak or not. In India, we realized at that point in time that this particular pandemic is going to require a lot of equipment, medical equipment to deal with. So, as an engineering company, we all were trying to find that what we could do just to help in this time. In Pune, we also created what is called as Pune Platform for COVID Response, PPCR. So it was a city-based platform where our Chamber of Commerce got involved. We are a member of that Chamber of Commerce. And there was a kind of an initiative, an open source initiative to work on the ventilator. So I asked my engineers, I said, look, we are all at home. Why not at least participate in helping these companies with our skills in the engineering? And there's a gentleman in Pune, 86-year-old man, Captain Rustum Barucha, who used to make ventilators for some anesthetic applications in the past. And he came out saying that, look, I have a machine, a mechanical machine. I don't know whether this machine can be adopted for the current requirement, but he offered his mechanical prototype to be kind of re-engineered for the benefit of our society. 23rd of March was the announcement of the lockdown. So 31st of March, I first met Captain Barucha. We realized that because everything was shut down, the only way something can be made more is if we open up our factory. And we got a special permission to work in the lockdown for actually building those parts, because we told them that, look, we can stay home and do the engineering from home, but if we have to produce the parts, then we must work on the machines and actually do the work. The lockdown was very strictly implemented in India, so nobody was allowed to move out. Everything was shut down completely. Nobody was allowed to be on the road. So one of our supplier who has a machine shop, and his house is on the first floor and the machines are on the ground floor, he was the only one who could actually machine some parts for us. And 10 of us had the travel permissions, so we could move around. And my role was actually a driver at that time, to move things from one place to another, transport them to our assembly area. And in a month's time, we built the first prototype. Then we realized that ventilator was one of the equipment, but more effective equipment was this high flow oxygen therapy device. So having built this machine, we actually had to take a call not to do it, but to do something else.
Wow, so you changed course a second time. How radical was this change?
With the work that we had done, we kind of developed an understanding of the technology. Definitely it was a lot of learning that we could use. And end of April, we started working on this high flow oxygen therapy device. And by end of May, in a month's time, we made this device. When we went to the doctors with this prototype, what they said is that it's a good system, but in the Indian conditions, it is not enough. First of all, we had too many people who got infected. There were too few doctors. So a lot of work had to be done by the nursing staff, who were totally unfamiliar with these new devices that they had to deploy. And therefore, the doctor suggested to make it usable by people who literally had no formal training before. In June, we started actually producing this system to the specifications that the doctors had asked us to do. So this is the device with 3 knobs here, which gives the oxygen and the flow. So you have a control of oxygen and you have the control of flow. And then it goes to the patient, to the nasal cannula or to the mask that one would put on the patient. So by mid of June, we started actually taking trials with some of the hospitals that were known to us, and they gave us a very, very positive reviews. And that was one of the most satisfying thing when they took the patient trials and they said that this is really very simple to use. And it is more importantly, it is actually curing a lot of patients better than the ventilators, because ventilators are far more sophisticated to use, and they are actually used in the last stage of the therapy. If you use this device in the early stage, the chances are that the patient will recover and not go to the last stage at all, so he wouldn't need the ventilator. And the recovery rates out of ventilators are, as you know, are very, very low. So giving this device in the right time actually started saving a lot of lives. By mid of June, we started delivering the machines. In a month's time, we delivered something like 100 systems to different hospitals and in many different parts of the country. What is very interesting is that my team, who had no medical knowledge, including my driver, who then joined us, they became the trainers for taking the machines to the hospital, giving the training to the people. We had like 4 or 5 engineers who were earlier working on precision measuring machines, started, working on medical devices, interacting with the doctors, and each one of them, the kind of satisfaction that they had in being able to help our society. That was the biggest thing. And
I mean, the whole story of engineering guys venturing out in order to save lives in India is incredible. Were they in any danger?
all of these, you can imagine there were a lot of family pressures on each one of them, that when the whole world is sitting in, you are going to the hospitals and going to the places that normally we will not dare to enter now in this situation. Thankfully, in the entire 6 months, touch wood, none of us got affected. We were taking sufficient protective care, but I think the work that we were doing was so good that in return none of us got affected. This thing, in God's grace, that helped our team.
Was there any resistance? I mean, they're all trained engineers, and engineers are like this. They're trained to do this, and you're trying to make them do something different. How was the process of realigning them done?
So with this medical business, and when people started seeing, one was that a noble reason to get into, but the second was that it also started bringing revenues to the company. They saw that this is a product that is pretty much in line with the skills that we have, which we didn't earlier see. The precision mechanics and the medical devices, kind of the practices go very hand in hand. And that gave them the confidence that, look, this is nothing different than what we have been doing before. And this is a product that we can take it forward. And that's how we ended up with one more product that I mentioned to Ayesha. We are now doing what is called as RT-PCR testing machines. So these machines go at the airport when you arrive, and it gives a accelerated result in the lab. What used to take them 4 or 5 hours, now because of this machine, they can process the test kits in about an hour's time. We have started doing that, and I'm very happy that potentially our medical business will have more revenues for this particular month, than our CMM business, the measurement business that we have been doing. Since last month, we have started hiring more people. So we have actually grown in our manpower now. If everything goes well, possibly this year we will do more business than what we did last year. And
that's incredible.
Yeah.
Vikram, I want you to touch on 2 points. One is the advantage of this high flow oxygen therapy machine versus ventilator, because it's non-invasive. Yes. That's a very scary word for the whole world. And the second is the cost.
Yes.
It's adaptability to a society like India, where you have power outages, lack of hospital beds. If you could talk about
That's right. This was a kind of a non-profit initiative for us when we got into this product. And therefore, we decided that availability was the first thing for our society. And we will do it almost at cost. We will not charge it as a commercial product. So what we are actually offering, this entire product is under $2,000 to the end users. compared to a ventilator which cost anywhere in excess of $8,000 to $10,000. But importantly, as you just highlighted, the advantage of this system is that being a high flow, this helps you to do a very quick exchange of gases in our lungs, which means that flushing out of the carbon dioxide is made much easier through this system. So in the COVID, when your oxygen percentage starts dropping down, this is the important therapy that is first given to the patient. The second thing is that there is a portability. In fact, we have installed one of this system in an ambulance now, because the big problem was that patients are coming from the rural areas and they can be in the ambulance anywhere between 2 hours to 7-8 hours before they get a bed in a hospital. This is almost like you getting into the hospital and getting into an ICU. You would have this equipment in an ambulance and you can start giving the treatment. More importantly, we are delivering these equipments in rural parts of our country, in our state particularly. And with the simplicity, we are able to even train the doctors over the WhatsApp call or a video call, and they can start deploying the machine for treatment. So we have now done all our videos in our local languages so that the nurses and everybody can very quickly understand in their language, and they can use these machines.
These videos, is this something that you knew how to do or you would have done for your products before?
No. This was totally different. I mean, earlier we have been working with machines and working with engineer products. Here we are working with human beings, and that is totally different. To adopt it for those needs. I had a lot of volunteers who came up and also helped us in this area to kind of pitch in to make those videos. And youngsters are also participating now. They are helping us. We are creating a social media platform so that the message can also reach out to many people. Now, interestingly, we have started working on the oxygen concentrators now. Availability of oxygen in the hospitals is very limited in the rural areas. What we intend to do is continue strengthening the rural health infrastructure in India. Whatever we have experienced in the last few months with the Rotary Foundation and many other foundations, now we are approaching to create some pilots that we can strengthen the rural health infrastructure, not only in terms of equipment, but also again skills of the people. Not only just in operation, but also in maintenance. So we want to develop those skills in the rural areas where these equipments can be effectively be used.
Can I ask you to reflect just for a moment on the change that has happened in your company? I mean, you pointed out your engineers who are now dealing with people. That's one interesting thing. It turns out your company had the wherewithal, the knowledge, the skills to do all this. And you never would have if there hadn't been a crisis.
That's true.
This crisis has actually unleashed creativity.
I mean, if somebody would have asked me to do this in month of January, what you thought about a medical business, I would have said, yes, it's interesting, but there are too many barriers. It's something that we don't understand about. All the fears of what happens to you when you want to go for swimming the first time. But in March, we were thrown in the water. And once we were in the water, we realized that, it's not so bad. We can do it. Having done one product and then the second product, today my engineers, they come every day, sir, can we do this? Can we do that? They are also reading. And very interestingly, they have started reading a lot of those things. And I must say, there is a lot of knowledge on the internet that we had never earlier realized. I started taking lessons on the respiratory techniques, and all these terms were very new at a time when I was kind of thinking that in next 5 to 10 years I want to do something else in my life. It's like going to the first year college engineering and trying to start learning everything. So doing the biomedical engineering classes of that was something totally unexpected. But then each one of us really saw positivities of doing that, and people started taking a lot of interest. And today, with interactions with doctors, our engineers are also feeling very comfortable in understanding those terminologies. Earlier, when you go to the hospital, whatever they say, you say, okay, they are the best experts, and you never thoroughly understand what it means with those terminologies. Today we are, I would say, have a little bit more understanding of medical terminologies than before. There is a very, very positive thing, and people have started realizing the potentials of this biomedical world, which earlier was a monopoly of large companies. Now companies like us and many other small entrepreneurs have done a lot of those things, and now we are trying to create, or let's say institutionalize this work. See, one thing I must admit, in last 6 months, while we had some good results, so there were a lot of things that we should not have done, or the mistakes that we did in last 6 months. So now we are trying to see how the new entrepreneurs coming in this field can probably be helped so that they don't lose their steam. Because in this kind of thing, what happens is that if you hit too many roadblocks in the initial part of your activity, then sometimes a good idea which probably would have succeeded gets killed at 80-90% of the effort. So we are trying to now, from our learnings, trying to bring it into our city now.
Vikram, you probably had a long-term plan, and all of a sudden, within a matter of weeks, you've had to change your long-term plan. What's the long-term plan now, given that we're still dealing with the situation, and yet you have your basic infrastructure for the automotive industry? What's going to happen, say, in 5 years, 10 years? Where's your company headed?
Aisha, what has happened now is that obviously, every company works with its core competence. In addition to our core business, this is a new activity that we are entering. We did not lose the sight of our core business either. I'm very happy that our normal business is also coming back to normal, and we have a new business that is going to be incremental revenues for us. A company like us probably will do much more than what we did last year in 2021 in this year.
Can you point at any particular skills that were particularly tested by this challenge for you? I hear you being flexible, humble, listening, all these things.
I think one skill that really helped me at this point was my ability to network with different set of people beyond our normal field of activity. I must say that when I reached out to these people, they also responded. When I started reaching out to people, they didn't know who Accurate was, who Vikram Salunkhe was, because we had no history in medical world. Many of these people, once they saw the sincerity and our approach of getting into these things, they came out with very open arms and helped us. The second thing is that we knew that this is a challenge that we have to help ourselves. Nobody is going to come to our rescue. Instead of going in a shell and saying that, okay, let's wait, we decided to fight it out. All my team also came out to work in this area. So I think these were two primary things, I think, between us and my team, that we were able to go forward in this short period of time.
Vikram, you're very humble. I think you're not mentioning that part because it's your humility that's not allowing you to say that it was actually your compassion or your passion for your country and your company employees.
No, for sure, I'm sure everybody in SEALA is of the same spirit, that we are not the people who sit on the side of the bank and then, if there's a situation, we will jump in.
That's great.
We will be also happy to work with other partners in SEALA. We are happy to transfer all this knowledge that we have acquired. So, I don't want people to kind of reinvent the wheel all the time. So if there are anybody who in our network would like to help in any form their own citizens, we'll be happy to provide whatever we have learned in last few months in this situation. I'm sure many people like us would have done something on their own also, and I'll be happy to also learn from other members if they have something that we can also help.
Vikram, we're very proud to know you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Adam. Thank you, Aisha. Let's all stay safe and come out of this situation as soon as possible.